As an independent documentary filmmaker with an interest in science, ecology, democracy and social justice, I'm very pleased to have this opportunity to speak with you all today. The topic of extinction, which was raised by Mile, is very close to my heart, as my current film project, Cuttlefish Country, tracks the 15-year decline of the giant Australian cuttlefish in northern Spencer Gulf. This animal faces the prospect of local extinction as soon as 2016, and if the projection holds, this will be Australia's first recorded marine extinction event. Shame. Not in our name. Now, as a society, we have trouble talking about extinction, let alone accepting responsibility for it. Similarly, the sense of urgency needed to act to improve our climate prospects has been swept from the mainstream media. Media moguls, fossil fuel interests and a compliant federal government both create and support the conditions for disaster to occur. Shame. Now, one of mankind's grand hypocrisies is that on one hand, I should say humankind, but I think men are largely responsible. Grand hypocrisies is that on one hand, he has the arrogance to assume a position as master of the environment, then when it suits him, the humility to deny any responsibility for the consequences of his actions. And the more dire the consequences for the quality of our air, our soil and our water, the greater the degree of denial. Now, Australia is in an unprecedented rush to exploit its coal, oil and gas reserves, and in doing so is trampling Indigenous interests, farmers, water resources and our natural heritage. Not in our name. The great plunder down under is on, and the federal government is doing its best to remove as many of the checks and balances as it can. Regulations exist, but enforcement varies from weak to non-existent. Independent scientists have a knack for raising and confirming inconvenient truths. Bye-bye, Minister for Science. So long, Climate Commission. Bon voyage, carbon tax. Not in our name. My heart bleeds as I watch the rush to sacrifice our World Heritage reefs and forests and think of their consequences on the climate. But this rush is not the sole responsibility of the Abbott government. The Gillard-Rudd government did little to curtail the plans for fossil fuel exports and their climate-wrecking potential. Our democracy has been soiled by corporate interests, and it is bipartisan standard operating procedure to allow short-term economic interests to trump any precautionary principles. Now, how can we as Australians stand by while such sacrifices are made and future crimes of ecocide are committed on a global stage? The denial of harm appears to be a common theme in our federal government's approach to the environment and social policy, as you've heard. But the problem is cancerous, and I believe it has afflicted all levels of government. The influence industrialised humanity continues to have in changing the face of life on Earth itself is overwhelming. This is both compounded and confounded by the dysfunction of our troubled democracy. At times, this can be paralysing for concerned citizens like us ourselves. But when we come together as we have today, and as have thousands more around the country, we are reminded that there is hope. And that's critically important. I'm sure you all agree that Tony Abbott is not the face of hope. Hope is not sitting in his cabinet in Canberra, nor in his entourage of political donors and dedicated lobbyists. These are spectres of sham governance that we must cast away. There are better ways to manage our society and our natural resources, and there are better, gentler ways for us all to live. My vision for the future of Australia is one of open and transparent government, peace and respect for all human beings, and a universal understanding of the earth which supports us all. Does this vision... Clearly there's some support for such a vision. Now is the time for genuine citizen-led democracy for the sake of the environment, our society and our future economy. We already have the tools. Who is standing here today thanks to a message from a friend via the internet? Keep your hand up if you've ever voted in an online poll. We already have the means for affordable... Yeah, a lot of you. Now, we already have the means for affordable online referenda on any matter of national interest or controversy, so why aren't we getting them? Yes. What burning questions Have you asked your local, state and federal government representatives lately? Are you satisfied with their answers? No! Not in our name, that's right. So power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Politicians must be reminded that ultimately they work for us, and we need to work harder at holding them and their senior level bureaucrats to account. Yes, there is hope, but hope alone will not save us. There is much work to be done. No law is set in stone. We must articulate the changes we need made to our electoral and democratic systems, to our laws and to our ways of living. We must find the common ground to unite us as we've done today. We must transform anger and frustration into goals and reforms which we pursue relentlessly. We must identify the problems, present the solutions, then call loudly, directly and in unison for change. A key part of my work as a documentary filmmaker is analysing the conditions that allow disaster to occur. Such conditions are currently in place, and without our intervention, further harm to the things we love is guaranteed. We can, and so we must, reclaim our governance from its present destructive and divisive force. I believe that with hope, vision, collaboration and hard work, we can steer the course of our country to a safer, fairer and gentler future. Thank you.